There he goes again. That's huge. That's on the roof.
Welcome to Dean at Stumps, the cricket encyclopedia.
The Sri Lankans are stunned. The Zimbabweans are jubilant. Look what that means to them. The first ever series victory against Sri Lanka.
Hello and welcome to the Dean at Stumps podcast. My name is Dean du Plessis, and it certainly is great to be hanging out with you yet again. Well, it's a little unsure as to when Zimbabwe's domestic season will officially be getting underway, but there have been a lot of people hard at work behind the scenes for when it eventually does happen. None more so than the Alistair Campbell High Performance Centre. And I was able to catch up with Alistair Campbell, who is the founder of the High Performance Centre. And he started off by telling me a little more as to what he would like to try and achieve from this High Performance Centre of his.
Yeah, it has. I just, I think that there's such a talent pool in Zimbabwe, but we haven't over the years been able to harness it in the right direction and make sure that there's a sort of a place where youngsters can go and get the best education insofar as their cricket is concerned, but also life. I'm a firm believer that there's more to cricket than just going and having nets and playing games and trying to play for your country and earning money as a professional cricketer. There's a lot more that needs to be sort of put into the melting pot. So our sort of three cornerstones there are cricket, community and conservation, because I believe those are three, particularly the last two, cricket, conservation and community are big things insofar as Africa is concerned. So we spend a lot of time not only giving the guys a solid grounding insofar as their cricket is concerned, but also spending time on off the cricket field stuff like going into the communities and taking the game to the communities, coaching these young kids, coaching in the different community schools, and conservation is a big thing for me. And, there's a lot of people doing a lot of good work around the world insofar as conservation is concerned, particularly the rhino gets a big rap, and stuff that Kevin Peterson's doing and what Mark Boucher's doing as well in South Africa. So I think it's important that young kids also realize that conservation is a big part of getting right in Africa. So it's an initiative that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to try and grab raw and talented young men and try and channel them in the right direction and the right environment as well, to make sure that they can really aspire to their dreams of playing professional cricket, but also those that don't make it have something else to fall back on that we've opened their eyes to and given them the opportunity to pursue. So in the form of Gary Brent, who's the head coach, I mean, he's the best mentor and coach in the country as far as I'm concerned, and to have him leading this program and leading those young men, they're the fittest guys around. They at CrossFit every day, and he works them so hard insofar as their cricket is concerned. And also, as I said, we do a lot of the off-field stuff as well. And as you mentioned, it's good to get other guys involved as well to come and give their 5 cents insofar as getting these guys up and running is concerned. We had Ray Price there the other day. We've had John T. Rhodes out this year. Grant Flowers been there, and it's good to have two guys that are currently playing, two of the best guys in the form of Brendan Taylor and Kyle Jarvis, that are going to be mentoring the guys and playing for us in the first class competition. So it's a program that it's in its infancy, and we're busy upgrading the facilities at Old Georgians to try and get them up to first class standard and give the guys an opportunity to play with first class facilities, because you need that if you're going to progress as a cricketer. And thanks to Zimbabwe Cricket as well for including us in the first class program. It's all very well having a program that you're practicing and playing warm up games and playing practice games, but you need something to cut your teeth against insofar as being at the coalface and really being able to exhibit your talents on the big stage. And so being able to have a team in this first class season is really a step in the right direction, and hopefully the young men can acquit themselves really well, and the aim is that a few of them get recognised and can go on to represent Zimbabwe to higher honours, and also to get into one of the other franchises and start their journey as a professional cricketer. So it's like I said, it's in its infancy, and so far so good. All the boxes are being ticked, and this will be our first season playing competitive cricket, and hopefully it goes well.
Obviously, it's no secret that Zimbabwe cricket has been under the pump for quite some time in terms of finances, and reliability issues there's been all sorts of not very nice things to talk about, but you have put all of that aside and taken what people may perceive as a bit of a gamble and said, well, you know what, we're still going to invest a lot of time and money and resources into this. We're not entirely even sure when the domestic season is going to get underway, but we're still here to take a chance. I mean, that's an incredibly good and positive attitude to have in what seems to be a bit of a shaky situation at the moment, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's well documented what's transpired insofar as Zimbabwe cricket being suspended and now being reinstated, and obviously still waiting for money to come in from the ICC to get players played and to get the season underway. But I believe that the reinstatement is proof enough that we can get cracking and making sure that we get Zimbabwe ticking over in the right direction again. And I've seen the FTP for next year, and it looks pretty packed. And there's plenty on offer insofar as the cricketers are concerned to play. So I think there's the future moving forward insofar as Zimbabwe cricket is concerned is bright, and that's fixtures wise. But what we need to get right, and I've read transcripts of what the chairman has said, and you've carried out some interviews as well. Yeah. And he's talking about the need to sort out club cricket and, the need to sort out the player pathway. So, for him to have identified this and the board to have identified this, it's a step in the right direction. They realise that, it can't operate in a vacuum, the national team, and be playing international fixtures. If there's nothing feeding that national team, if there's nothing feeding the systems, if there's no organisation insofar as the player pathway is concerned, then there's going to be no talent being nurtured, and nobody coming through to replace the guys that are retiring. And the likes of Taylor and Williams and Raza, all these guys are over the 30s now, 32, 33, 34. So we need to be producing guys that can seamlessly fit in there and take their places, which is not happening at the moment. So there's a lot to be done, and if I can do my little bit in giving some youngsters an opportunity to stake their claim as professional cricketers and obviously be one of the building blocks to get Zimbabwe cricket back on track, then so be it. And it inspires me all the time when I come to places like this and I watch Afghanistan play. I was in Kabul a couple of weeks ago doing their local league, because I'm just intrigued by the way that they have progressed. And I tell you what, the standard in their domestic cricket is unbelievable. Some of the cricketers coming through there, particularly in the spin department, watch in a couple of years' time, these guys will be snapped up by leagues all over the world. And already you have 4 or 5 of them playing in the top T20 competitions, and don't be surprised if there's another 4 or 5 following in their footsteps. So what we need to do is we need to create a player pool that's big enough for obviously the national side to be successful. And like I said, if this program of mine, working in conjunction with ZC, can provide some of the young players a platform with which to stake a claim for the national side, and we can start working with the younger players and start working on a system that gets people from an early age, gets them focusing on playing professional cricket, then it's a step in the right direction, isn't it?
It most certainly is, Alistair Campbell. So we obviously wish Alistair and the entire team, Gary Brent and all the players who will be involved, the very best when the season does eventually get underway. And we'll continue to track this. So in the next Dean at Stumps podcast, you will hear from Gary Brent, and you'll also hear from the captain of the Alistair Campbell High Performance Centre as well. It's going to be wonderful to get into the mind of the youngster and see what he has as well in terms of achievements and everything else that goes with being successful. Well, what we like to do towards the end of the year is we like to take you back in time on Dean at Stumps, and that's exactly what we did and will continue to do. So Alistair Campbell, as we know, was also the captain of Zimbabwe, and a very successful one as well, with especially good performances in the 1999 World Cup and a Test Series win over Pakistan in Pakistan, as well as a Test win against India at Harare Sports Club in 1998. So, what was it like captaining the side? And don't forget that when Alistair Campbell took over the captaincy from Andy Flower back in 1996 after the World Cup, many people were quite bewildered as to the fact that Alistair actually got the job, given the fact that he hadn't exactly been scoring a great deal of runs. He was very inconsistent at the top of the order. Sometimes he looked good, and other times, well, it just didn't go his way. So Andy Flower decided to focus very much on his own game, and the captaincy was offered to Alistair Campbell. So was he aware of the scrutiny of the cricket-loving public in Zimbabwe, despite the fact that there was no social media?
It was. I mean, luckily in those days there wasn't social media. So when you talk about the naysayers and that, it was more from a person speaking in a pub that I might have overheard, or someone in a supermarket. But there wasn't, there wasn't the scrutiny that there probably is in this day and age. So that was a good thing. It was. It sort of. It came out of the blue. I mean, Andrew said that he was. Sort of resigning the captaincy, and I thought nothing of it. And when you're sort of young and free, and concentrating again on the next tour and your game, and then it's sort of and numerous things happened there, because I got a call to ask me if I would be the captain. I decided on that particular day to also asked for my wife's hand in marriage. So I was planning a trip to Matorishanga to go and see her folks to ask the permission. And sort of these two things came about on the same day. Wow. I remember just saying, yes, of course I would. I just need to make a few phone calls though. And one of them was to Andy, just saying, what do you think? I mean, is it the right thing to do and whatnot? And he definitely thought it was, gave me a few pointers insofar as what to expect. And obviously, we would talk over time. And I phoned Dave Houghton as well, because obviously those are the two guys that have been sort of my mentors in my career. And as long as I had their support, then that was fine by me. You're always going to have people with their opinions outside the game, but the biggest thing is to have the support of the senior players in the changing room, because if you have that, then you have a functioning a unit and a chance of success. So that to me was the big thing. I was fully aware that I was a bit happy-go-lucky and wasn't as consistent as I should have been. So yes, I think people were more frustrated with this guy that had plenty of ability but wasn't delivering on that ability. So I think that the captaincy was a way of maybe focusing that and trying to get my game going in the right direction again, and also that would be possible with maybe a bit more responsibility. So I think that it sort of it jolted me into the realization that there's I can't just be this guy, part member of the team anymore that can do what he likes and be a bit happy-go-lucky. I need to actually make a few harsh choices now and sort of get my game in check, but also take on a bit more responsibility. So it was it came as a bit of a surprise, but then after a bit of digesting and a few phone calls, it sort of made sense to me, and I thought that I could do the job.
And of course, you had a wonderful start to your, in terms of interesting things happening. Your first tour as captain was to Sri Lanka, where you played a quadrangular series, and then it was 2 test matches. But before the test series started, you had a very interesting incident where you guys decided to go for a swim in the sea. Henry Olonga very nearly drowned, so yourself and Craig Evans had to try and help him, and you yourself got into a bit of difficulties in the sea, which is a very easy thing to happen. And then your next tour to Pakistan was very interesting in the first test match, given the fact that you pretty much had Pakistan on the ropes before one Wasim Akram blasted 257 not out. So an incredible baptism of fire for you as captain, both on and off the field, with the events that happened.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it now, that Henry Olonga incident, but it was a heck of a series at the time. And we just had a beach session, a typical Malcolm Jarvis beach session. So guys were knackered, and it was that time of the year in Sri Lanka of high tides and big riptides and whatnot. So we just went out, and then suddenly Henry there got washed out, and I actually went out with Grant Flower, who swims worse than I do. So I said, Grant, we've got to go. And halfway there, he said, I can't. And he swam back, and I carried on going and grabbed Henry and tried to push him into the beach side. And in the process, I expended a lot of energy, and guys came out and obviously grabbed Henry, took him in, and then me relaxing, I just said it's fine, and me relaxing, just treading water for a while, suddenly and literally in 30 seconds I found myself back out again, and I was just so tired now that I couldn't really swim, and the lifeguards were trying to come in and getting beaten back. So finally it was it was Craig Evans and Andrew Whittle, I think, that came out there and finally made it out there. Someone kicked out a football, if I remember, that I could hold on to. And we all got in, and all's well that ends well. But that was a scary situation. And then, that Shakapura game. I mean, Shakapura was a bizarre test match as well. Like you said, we did have them on the ropes, and Wasim came in. I remember, I think it was Dave Houghton that dropped him at mid-on when he had just had a few, and we've all done that. I remember dropping Said Anwar in the World Cup in '99 in England, in the Super 6 stage, went to get on and get 100. So there's always that sort of hard luck story. But he played the innings of his life, Wasim, and took the game away from him. So it was also that Shakapura was such a schlep, that test match. I remember we were just talking about it the other day. We stayed in Lahore, I think it was, and it was 2 hours every day to get to the test venue. It was there was no hotel there, so we had to drive. We had to wake up sort of 5 in the morning and go to Abreka, leave at 6 to get there by 8 to start at 9:30. So it was an incredible schlep, the test match as well.
What a wonderful conversation with Alistair Campbell talking about the HBC, and we, like I said, are going to hear a lot more about that, so never fear, because I know there are many of you who would love to hear the progression and development of the youngsters. But in next time's podcast, Alistair will also be telling us a bit more about that fantastic series of 1996-97 when Zimbabwe beat England in the one-day series, and of course gave them a real run for their money in the second test match. But in the podcast to come, we'll also be hearing from Dave Houghton, who talks about that series, as well as being a player coach, which was a rather interesting situation to find himself in. So there's a lot more for you to look forward to as we balance it quite nicely between looking back and looking ahead as well. You've been listening to the Dean at Stumps podcast. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you next time. But until then, it's goodbye.